Consumers have demanded this.
Go with convenience or side with smaller businesses?
If this does go through, we estimate to a third to a half going out of business.
Wine at Colorado grocery stores could become a reality, but local shops are pushing back.
I don't really buy the convenience because with 1,600 liquor stores in Colorado, it's pretty convenient already.
As Colorado businesses rebound from the pandemic, some are still struggling to get back on their feet.
This year, we're actually down 40% in sales.
One local shop owner is giving us an in-depth look at the hardships she's endured trying to keep her doors open.
We had 5 locations at one point, and today we have 2.
We begin with breaking news tonight. Denver Public Schools has released a list of schools they're considering closing at the end of the school year.
Those schools recommended to close are right there on your screen. They are primarily elementary schools and K-8 schools that will likely unify with another school nearby. Denver7's Amy Wattis joins us and is breaking down the DPS recommendations.
So this all has to do with enrollment in these schools.
Yeah, and DPS, Shannon says, stresses that this main list is not final. Now they say they plan to unify 10 elementary schools and middle schools due to significant declines in enrollment. The district says this is causing DPS's smallest schools to struggle with consistent staffing, strong academics, and more. Here's the list again. For example, Columbian Elementary will unify with Trevista at Trevista. And when you look at Google Maps, both schools are about a 5-minute drive from each other. Now, I mapped out each consolidation and none of them are more than a 10-minute drive. Before this list was released, we spoke with DPS School Board President Sochi Gaitan. She tells us that school funding is based off enrollment and that enrollment is going down fast.
As a school district, Denver Public Schools has been facing just a very rapid decline, and it's rapidly declining by probably by more than 6,000 students in the past 5 years or so. And we expect an additional loss of about 3,000 students in elementary and middle school over the next 3 to 4 years.
The district estimates those 3,000 students who are not enrolled are going to cost the DPS about $36 million over the next few years. Now, the main thing is the closure list is not final. Again, a DPS's plan will be presented to the Board of Education in early November. A few weeks later, there will be a public comment session. Then the board will hold a final vote. Now, we are still digging deeper into the story and are hearing from teachers who are not happy with this news. You'll hear from the teachers union tonight on Denver7 News at 10. Jessica.
Amy, thank you. Well, now to our other top story tonight, convenience, but at what cost?
So for years there have been campaigns to get wine on the shelves of Colorado grocery stores. And next month, you finally have a chance to vote on it. It's Proposition 125.
Tonight, Denver7 political reporter Megan Lopez is taking an in-depth 360 look at why a measure that seems to have plenty of support has many small liquor shops pushing back.
Proposition 125 asks voters whether they want to allow grocery stores and convenience stores to sell wine starting next March. It means that along with picking up lunch meats and toilet paper, you can also snag a bottle of wine without having to make another stop. A limited number of stores already allow this. This measure would expand it, automatically converting beer retail licenses to also include wine. In this Denver7 Election 360, you'll hear from a group that supports the measure, another that opposes it, and a small business that says this could force them to close. First, let's look back for some context. For years, grocery stores were only allowed to sell liquor in one location in the state. Everything else could only sell low-strength or 3.2 beer. In 2016, however, that changed with a Colorado Senate bill dubbed the Great Compromise.
Part of that compromise was that the grocers got a limited amount of licenses, full-strength licenses, beer, wine, and spirits, over a certain amount of time.
First, grocery stores could have 5 liquor licenses statewide, then 8, then 13 and 20, and finally unlimited licenses by 2037. Now with the latest proposition, another potentially big change.
Full-strength beer has been a wild success in grocery stores. Consumers love it. Grocery stores love it.
And supporters of Proposition 125 want to replicate that success with wine too.
125 will allow consumers a great deal of convenience. They'll allow consumers to pick up a bottle of wine when they go to the grocery store to pick up dinner.
Michelle Ling represents groups behind the ballot measure. She says 37 states are already doing this, and wine was always supposed to be part of that great compromise.
At the 11th hour, it was taken out. And so this has always been the intent.
She also doesn't buy the concerns that this will hurt liquor store business. It was the same argument made in 2016 over selling beer.
And that has just not been the case. So in fact, we have 10 more liquor stores today.
In the end, she says this measure is about one thing: convenience.
We're standing in Joy Wine and Spirits on 6th and Marion in Denver, Colorado. My dad owned this store since 1963.
At small liquor stores across the state,
we're gonna maybe show you something that you might not know about.
Buying a bottle of wine is as much about the experience as the taste.
What we're gonna offer you is a very personal experience. You're gonna come out feeling confident in your purchase.
Owner Carolyn Joy worries that offering wine in grocery stores will result in less variety.
And there's one buyer. So that one buyer is going to be buying for multiple stores, and you're going to see the same things.
When beer was allowed in grocery stores, Joy says sales dropped dramatically, but they were able to adapt by selling more craft options. For wine, though, it's a different story, so she's worried.
For my business, this would be very devastating.
There's about 1,600 independent mom and pop liquor stores throughout the state, and about half are owned by women, and about 2/3 are owned by folks who have English as a second language.
Chris Fine from the Colorado Licensed Beverage Association worries as many as 800 of those small liquor stores could go out of business if this becomes law. He says the Great Compromise was just that, a compromise meant to last 20 years. So if grocery stores are willing to go back on that deal and try to work wine in now,
it's just a matter of time before they're going to want spirits. This is, again, just about greed. It's not really about consumer convenience.
Big money is being spent on this ballot measure. Instacart, Whole Foods, Target, Safeway, and Kroger have all kicked in millions on this campaign. For retailers, it comes down to convenience, but liquor stores say that comes with a cost. In November, it will be up to voters to decide which of those principles matters more. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
And Colorado did try adding wine to grocery stores. However, voters rejected that back in 1984.
So I did some digging and found that our state actually has a wine industry development board, which tracks Colorado's wine industry. Our state started with just 5 wineries in 1990. Now we're home to more than 170 of them. A large majority of Colorado's vineyards are located in the western slope in Mesa County. More than 85% of state vineyards surround areas near Grand Junction and Palisade. And if you're wondering, Riesling is the most common variety of grape harvested in Colorado. In total, the wine industry brings in roughly $300 million to Colorado's economy every year.
Well, nearly 172,000 Coloradans have already made up their minds about wine sales in grocery stores. Today we received the first totals from the Secretary of State's office on ballots returned. Just over 171,000 Coloradans have returned their mail-in ballots. 600 people have already voted in person. 36% of those ballots are from unaffiliated voters, 33% from Democrats, and 30% from Republicans. If you'd like to learn more about all the issues on this year's ballots, you can find all of Megan's 360 election stories right after they air on Denver7.com and the free Denver 7 Plus app.
As industries look to rebound from the pandemic, some businesses are making the tough decision to close altogether.
Now, in the second quarter of this year, a 27% jump in business closures in Colorado. As Denver 7 CB Cotton reports, more may be coming before the end of the year.
Really inspired by vintage and just by the whole 60s and 70s psychedelic era.
Inspiration that led to this store full of color, from the chandelier to the sunglasses to the clothing.
We had 5 locations at one point.
And while the merchandise's vibrancy has never faded, owner Stephanie O'Rourke says spending has.
This year, we're actually down 40% in sales.
And because of that drop, O'Rourke says she's down to only 2 brick and mortar stores for her business, Little Piece of My Heart. And this fall, she's closed down 2 stores.
We can't afford the overhead at all.
According to state data, nearly 12,000 businesses closed during the second quarter of this year, compared to a little more than 9,000 closures in the second quarter of 2021.
Our view is that that continues through the end of this year and into 2023, perhaps actually officially even going into a recession in 2023.
Richard Wabikind with CU's Leeds School of Business says there will be more shuttered shops because consumers can no longer afford them and businesses can no longer afford to keep them open.
With rising inflation in the economy, with this high inflation rate, consumers have to make tough decisions on what they're purchasing and not purchasing necessarily as many products. We've seen a lot of businesses having to pay more for not only labor, but also for the things that they're actually selling, be it food or clothing.
There's some good news. Wabikind says the labor shortage is slowing and bargaining for a deal on a leased space should be easier. For now, O'Rourke is trying to focus on online sales.
We had to kind of figure out how to restructure.
She's also trying to stay bright, positive, like the colors that fill her remaining stores.
At the end of the day, there will be some light at the end of the tunnel. I really do believe that.
CB Cotton, Denver 7.
I think this is, unprecedented.
Dismissed from his duties and banned from school grounds.
I haven't heard of anyone being banned from the entire district ever in my life before.
A former coach and volunteer in Denver kicked off the school he helped get off the ground. Tonight, we're getting answers from the district to figure out what exactly happened.
2 DPS police officers with guns on their hips pulled up to my house to serve me this letter. They came to my house and I felt criminalized.
A winter weather advisory for the northern and central mountains for Wednesday into Thursday. I'll let you know if Denver's going to see any snow.